Hey, I'm Raven Newsom with MVP Disc Sports, and this is my In the Bag. Starting off, I have two Electron Envies, the James Conrad throw-in ones. I love these for my straight shots where I get to hyzer flip to flat and then a little bit of touch to finish off. These are really, really nice. And the grippy plastic allows me to throw good up shots that kind of stick instead of a premium plastic where I get a little more of a skip, a little more of a finish. So really, really love getting to use these guys for that. I have a glow dyed Envy. A guy in Virginia did this for me, but it's banging chains. They did a very, very good job. This is something I use for most of my just power putter throws. Anything from 320 and in. This is something I like. It's got a straight flight with a little bit of a finish. And again, all of that glow plastic is really torque resistant, so I can get behind it and get some power on it and know that it's just gonna be dependable, which is great. Next, I have my Glow Pilots, an orange one and a green one. This one is a little more understable. Both of these glow plastics are really torque resistant, which is nice. It allows me to put more power on them without them burning out. So I use this one for my flip up to turn over shots, something in that 250 to 150 range. And then I use this one for a little more touch forehands. And then if I want to throw the same type of shot, but just a little more finish on it. So really like using this. This one's my more comfortable one. And then I like to use this guy for a lot of my touch up shots. Next, I have my Cosmic Neutron Entropy. I throw it for a lot of my overstable shots. I can throw it forehand with a good finish, and I can throw it backhand and know I'm gonna get a little skip out of the back. The Cosmic Neutron plastic is the most overstable, which is really, really beneficial as I'm starting to attack a lot of these courses with wind. So this is something that is really, really versatile and really, really helpful in my bag. Last, I putt with Electron anodes. I really like just the standard Electron plastic, not the firm or the soft. This just feels better for my hand. I know putting is different for everybody, but for me, this is what feels the best. I think that they're very, very point and shoot. Wherever I let them go, they're gonna stay on that angle for about 50 feet, and that is something that I look for in most of my putters. So these are they really practically putt themselves. I'm just along for the ride, which I love. Next up, we have my mid-ranges, one of my favorite ones. This is my original stamp that was ever made, but this is a Proton Prism Pyro, which for me is a very good straight forehand disc that finishes out, or I can get a backhand with just a little drift and know it's gonna come out. Typically, pyros aren't like that, but I've had this one for 3 years. So I've beat it into, I've hit a lot of trees, and now it works in a way that I really, really love. Next, I have my Neutron Pyro. This is my go-to mid-range. Anything that I want to throw forehand, any of my up shots. This is a disc I've just had in my bag for a long time. It's an old 2018 Circuit Challenge one. I had a friend dye it for me, but this is an amazing disc. It's something that I count on for so many of my throws. A lot of wind, woods, all of it. It's just my confident gap-hitting disc that is going to have finish and going to be predictable. Next, I have my Eclipse Reactor. This is a disc I like to throw for a lot of my straight shots, anything that I can throw flat with a little bit of turn and finish. And then I like to keep it on a one angle shot too, so a lot of hyzer up almost to flat and then drifting back. Something I use for the 360 to 280 in range a lot of times. And then I like to throw it for some scramble forehand shots. Anything that I want to throw touch flat that I'm going to get a little left finish and a little left turn and a little right finish. Next, I have a Neutron Hex. This is a disc that's a little newer in my bag. I love to throw it for straight mid shots that have a little bit of turn, and it's just going to hold longer than my Eclipse Reactor does, which is a nice versatile thing to have in the bag because the Eclipse Reactor is consistent, but it doesn't always hold all the way out to the end. So this is something that I like to have for those late turning shots, something that I really want to finish on the right, whereas I know the reactor is going to finish straight or on the left. So this is something that works out well for me, and I can also throw it with a good amount of touch. So it's really, really helpful. I try and avoid it forehands, but because I don't have a great release with it, so that's on me. Next, I have a very old, beat up Neutron Theory. I've had this off and on in the bag for a long time. This is something that I throw to have a right finish with a backhand, something that's very, very scramblable, something that I can throw very, very consistently, hyzer, flat, drift down to the right, and it's always gonna do that. I can throw it with a lot of touch, so I can throw it with a lot of hyzer and like 40% power, flips up and drifts for like 200 feet, so it's a disc that you kind of just let the work do for you. Moving on to fairway drivers, I really like to throw neutron volts. This is one that I've had in my bag for a long time. This is something that I throw for hyzer flip to flat. It's kind of like my Eclipse reactor, but it just goes a lot farther. So something that I have a whole lot of control over. It's something that I'm very, very confident throwing. I can throw it forehand, backhand, a little bit of hyzer, flips over, drifts, and comes back. This one is newer. It's not been thrown as much, so it's a little more overstable. I can throw it flat, get a little right, and then more hard finish. So something I use for a little more stable fairway shots. If there's a little more wind, it's gonna be something that's really consistent for me. Next, I have the Streamline Ascend. This is a neutron plastic. This max weight, 175 grams. It's something that I use for flippy roller shots, but also a lot of touch. Right now, I'm slower in pace, so I'm having to use a little more glidey discs. And this is a disc that is very, very good for touch shots. I can throw it with 60% power and get a full flip up and a drift to the right. And so it's something that I can use for scramble shots, something that can be very versatile in my bag without having to throw it at 85 to 100%. So this is something that I really like for right finishing shots, something that I like to throw for rollers, and something that I like to throw as a scramble disc. Next, I have my Neutron Craves. This one's max weight and this one's a little lighter. This disc I throw for a lot of hyzer flip to flat and then a lot of hyzer flip with a little bit of right finish. This is something that is a little more understable than my volts, so I can really throw it with a little more finesse, a little more spin, and a little less pace to get the very similar shot shape. And then I have this one. It's a little more overstable. It is something that is becoming more and more used in my bag. I can throw it with a lot of spin, but it's kind of like this one, just with a little more torque resistance. I can really put some more effort into it, and I'm gonna get a longer flight and a longer glide path out of this, which works wonders. Going to some of my favorite discs, I really like to throw the Waves. This is a Cosmic Neutron Wave, something I use for a lot of hyzer flip turnovers. I throw it for scramble shot forehands, but right now, since I'm throwing a little less pace, these are things that I get to throw with a lot more spin, a lot more control, something I don't have to put a whole lot of effort into throwing. These discs do a lot of work for me without me having to try and control their whole path, which is really, really helpful. Next, I have my Proton Thrill. This is a disc I've had in my bag since the first college national championships that I played in. Something that has stuck with me for a long time. I've beat it up, whacked it into some things, but it still has its stability. And I throw it for a lot of forehands, a lot of backhands. Windy conditions, it's great. If I want a right finish with a forehand that I get a little skip, this is something that I'll use. If I want to throw any touch shots, as long as you commit to a disc like this, it does really well, and it's always going to be consistent. So something that I very, very much enjoy using. Next, I have my Cosmic Neutron Flare. This thing is just a beefcake, the most overstable disc that you'll throw. Cosmic Neutron plastic, anything, and then on top of that, it is our most overstable disc. So compounded, this thing is really, really overstable. So I throw it for a lot of skip shots, I throw it for a lot of scramble shots. A lot of times I'm in the woods, I get to throw a chop forehand, and honestly, at max distance, I don't think I can throw it over 310 feet. Like, I will throw the junk out of it, and it'll always do the same thing. So it's very, very good to have discs like that in your bag, especially when you're playing in so many different environments. So going to a bunch of these wind courses, going to a bunch of these woods courses, having something that is always going to be consistent is very, very helpful. Next, going to my controlled drivers, the discs that I use for most of my distance, a lot of my touch, are my Vision Photons. These work really well for me. 3 of them are max weight, and then this one is a lighter weight guy, 169 grams. But this one's my most understable. Again, I'm using it for these flip up, turn over, go right, finish left. This one is same thing, except it's a little more overstable than the first. I get to throw it with a little less hyzer, a little drift, a little comeback. It's something, this one is my favorite one. I get a lot of versatility out of it. I can throw it in a bunch of different ways and get it to fly the way that I want it to. Next, I have my signature stamp ones. This one is newer in the bag and it is just more overstable. So if I have any wind or I need to have a left finish out of it, this is something that I get to use pretty often. Something that is going to just be predictable, especially when you're starting to get nervous or there might be a little bit of wind or there's out of bounds. This is something that I know is gonna finish left, so I can go ahead and just focus on a one angle shot instead of trying to flex anything or get anything a little crazy. And then this lightweight one is still kind of overstable right now. Eventually it's going to work into just being my max distance one, but I can throw this one for my longest hyzers, which is really good. I can throw it a lot of backhand, a lot of forehand on chop that's gonna finish out. Something that's really smooth. I can flip it up to flat just a little bit, but really I kind of have to release it flat right now. Eventually it's gonna work into the spot in my bag that's just gonna be my max distance driver and require a little less effort because the fission plastic just creates more rotation, and it's something that is really, really good when you're trying to add distance into your shots and distance into your game. Thanks for watching my In the Bag. I'll catch you guys soon.